All right.
Yes, Dr. Singh covered this point. So let's move to the next poll question that we have, which is emotional eating. What emotions usually drive people's food choices the most? So for me, I would
All
say
right.
it's definitely stress. So whenever there is a deadline and there's a lot to do, I tend up eating a lot.
Hmm. Right. That's interesting. Thank you for sharing, Apurva. So you said that for you, emotional eating, which is what emotions drive your food choices, it's mostly stress. And I think for a lot of us, it is stress, especially, when you're working and there is a close deadline and you feel like, I must just eat something to kind of feel slightly better or at least comfort myself while I work through this deadline. Is that how it feels?
Yes. And I think I
Mm.
actually feel hungry physiologically too. It's just not in the brain. I feel I am hungry. I want some more energy to focus and then get the work done.
Yes, right. Yes, that's because there is like we saw, there is actually um, a gut brain connection. So if we talk about emotional eating, if we talk about mindful eating, a lot of time uh, we're eating because there is some underlying emotion which is making us feel that I need to eat in order to deal with the particular emotion that I'm feeling. The emotion can be stress, can be anxiety, it can be boredom, can be social pressure. Everyone else is eating, so let me also eat this. Or what will people think if I say no? Or it can be tiredness, or it can be just habit. So you're just used to coming back from work and opening the fridge and putting something in your mouth. Or sometimes you're so tired that you feel like I need a pick me up. So let me just eat that particular, chocolate, and it's just going to make me feel slightly more pepped up. But for a lot of us, it is actually stress. So let's understand what happens. What happens is that when you're eating from a space of emotional eating and your eating is not very mindful, it makes you feel worse because you are choosing something that later you feel almost a lot of times you feel kind of guilty about. You kind of feel shameful about. There is this element of shame that you feel. And understand, it's all of us. It's a universal emotion. All of us feel shame at some point. So even though you're choosing that food to make yourself feel better, temporarily it may make you feel better or a certain way or different, or you're trying to distract yourself from the emotion. But ultimately, your emotional hunger is not going to be satisfied with food because it is stemming from something deeper. If it is stress, we need to understand what aspect of our life is giving us stress and how can we deal with it, or what is in our control right now, or what is that one action you can take. If it is anxiety, if it is boredom, how can you deal with boredom? How can you navigate through boredom without involving food altogether? When you're going out, maybe having an accountability partner. Or what if you were to say no to a particular food, even if everyone else is eating it, or even if it looks good? What is it? How is it going to serve you in the longer run? Or if you're tired, is it really food that you need to get pepped up? Or is it just probably a glass of water? Or is it just rest that you're looking for? Or is it habit? Because for so long, this is what you've been used to doing. But if you take a step back and look at it from a bird's eye view, is it really helping you? Is it really serving you? Is the question. Sometimes we need to ask ourselves some tough questions to understand if there is change required, why is it required? And am I ready for it? Okay. Um, so I think let's just cover guilt shame that comes with making certain food choices. What happens is a lot of times when you're emotionally eating, when there is emotional hunger, which is hunger, or you making a food choice, you eating because you're feeling a certain emotion and you want to deal with it or you want to distract yourself from it. You end up feeling okay for some time, but overall, most of us end up feeling guilty, or most of us end up feeling this element of shame. Some of the things to understand about shame is very important. Things about shame, there are three things that are very important to understand about shame. One is we all have it. So you're not alone. Second is we're afraid to talk about it. We're all afraid to talk about that little gnawing guilt feeling. We're afraid to talk about the shame that we go through because we feel like it's only me. It's only I can do something like this, no one else. What is wrong with me? And the third one is the less you talk about it, the more control it has over you. So understand these three things. So we've all been there. When your inner voice is your worst critic, what can that look like? What happens is imagine you're in a room, a very small room, almost the size of just you. You are in a room with a person who's constantly criticizing you, who's constantly telling you that you're not worthy enough. There is nothing good that you can do. There is nothing right that you can do. You just need to be constantly uh, be feeling a certain way. Everyone must be harsh with you, otherwise you will not buck up or make the right choices. And is just bullying you into feeling that you don't deserve to feel, a certain way about yourself. How are you going to feel like at the end of it? You're not going to come out of the room feeling extremely confident or extremely good about yourself. You're going to come out of the room feeling very beaten up. You're going to come out of the room feeling that, you know, probably believing that voice. Now imagine what if that bully voice is your own voice in your head. So understand, while self evaluation, self assessment is fine, and self criticism may also occur, but you need to craft it in a way, you need to work with it in a way that it doesn't bully you, but it is actually helping you to learn and grow and get insights and change your actions in a certain way. So you can be highly disciplined, you can be a driven person, you can be productive, and you can do all of this without bringing yourself down. Self respect does not mean that you are living a life of indulgence. It is not a luxury. Contrary to popular belief, we can still be kind to ourselves. We can still be compassionate to ourselves. We can be nice to ourselves. And we can also assess ourselves and evaluate ourselves and make the right choices and grow and be a better version of ourselves. So I'd also like to explain it in terms of, imagine you're with a child and you're probably coaching a child on a particular skill. Now you understand very clearly that there are two ways I can communicate with the child. One way is that I say things to the child which makes the child feel like I just can't do it right. For every mistake, the child feels like I can't do it right. The other way is communicating with the child in a way that the child feels like, well, yes, I made a mistake, or yes, I messed up, but I can still get it right the next time. I can still make a better choice and gets all excited about it and actually starts to work better. Now, if you understand that you need to speak that way to a child, why can't we speak to ourselves in the same way at any age? Understand that it applies to you, to the learning that you have, the growth that you have at any age that you're in. You don't need to be a child for that. You can be an adult, you can be at any age and still talk to yourself in a compassionate way so that you are driven towards growth. productivity, discipline, and making a better choice. All right. So over to you. I think this is another poll question.
Yes. So the next question is, how do people usually deal with guilt when it comes to emotional eating? So do they restrict food the next day, work out harder, feel bad but move on, try to reflect and make changes?
How do you deal with it, Anila?
I would restrict food the next day because I feel like this is too much of calories. Maybe I'm out of my plan, blah blah blah, and then it
Okay.
actually makes me guilty.
It makes you feel guilty, right? I think very relatable. And thank you for sharing. Yes, a lot of us, when we feel guilty after an episode or after an emotional eating bout, how we deal with the guilt is really going to drive our next choice. Most of us restrict ourselves. It's almost like, you're kind of punishing yourself. Or sometimes you're just trying to limit yourself. Maybe not punishing, but you're trying to limit yourself and you're being very conscious of, what you consume the next day. Sometimes people work out harder than they do because they feel like, they want to burn off those calories. Some people just feel like, okay, well, I feel really bad, I feel miserable, but I just move on. There's nothing I can do about it. And some people actually try to reflect on what happened and make changes. So there is this example that I generally use, and I love this example that what, if you're driving and you're driving on the highway and you're going, a lot of times, even with the Google Maps on, we miss a certain turn. After missing the turn, the next turn is probably, 2, 3 kilometers away. You don't just, after missing the turn, you just keep driving. You don't just keep driving, saying to yourself, telling yourself that, well, I missed the turn and I messed up. Now there's no point. There's nothing I can do. So I'll just keep driving and you just keep driving, not knowing where you're going. What you do is you understand, okay, I missed the turn. When is the next turn coming? And at the next turn, you make a U-turn and you come back. Even though it's cost you a few more kilometers and some guilt and some self-criticism, but you come back. That's what we do. Even after a choice that you've made that you're not very proud of, you can still reflect. You can still make that U turn and come back because each choice that you make before or even after that will have a significant impact on what you put inside your body, on how the gut receives it, how your brain receives it. All right. Ultimately, self talk. So, we're talking a lot about emotions like guilt. We're talking a lot about emotions like shame. But let's go a little deeper into this. Whenever we feel guilt, whenever we feel shame, very less talked about emotions. What happens next? What happens next is there is some sort of self-talk that happens inside your head. There is this dialogue that takes place inside your head. Now, we don't pay so much attention to that dialogue. We're not even aware of what it's saying a lot of the times. But because we don't pay attention to it, it really shapes the way we end up feeling about ourselves and it shapes the way we make different choices. And before we know, we've gotten into a pattern or a habit that we seem to not get out of, or it's difficult to come out of it. So, what does that talk sound like? This is where I'm going to give you a toolkit to understand that it's very important to notice that self talk, remove certain aspects, and include some other aspects if you really want to feel more in control of the next choice that you make after an emotional eating episode that leads to guilt or shame as well. Or even an emotional eating pattern. It doesn't have to be just an episode. So, what do we remove first? So there are 5 patterns that I have listed that we need to remove. when we talk about the self-talk toolkit. Global attack, overgeneralizing, a mental pylon, name calling, and self-protection. So let's go over each of these. Global attack is when you leap from one shortcoming to another, launching a full-blown comprehensive attack on your personality. It happens generally in the heat of the moment. It's almost like someone really bullying you. You make one mistake and it's like you've written yourself off. So catch yourself while doing that and see how you can change that, or how you can, uh, choose your words differently. Overgeneralizing is when you allow one event to overshadow every other, as if one negative event writes off all positive ones. So, or one, failure means I'm not good at anything. So one cupcake means I just can't get my food habits right. Mental pylon. Mental pylon is that after one mistake, we really get to work recalling every other mistake or failure that we've been ever responsible for. So it is almost like your inner world is sounding like an online hate campaign escalated out of proportion and making you go into a downward spiral. Do you really need to do that to yourself at that point? If you catch yourself doing that, well, take a moment and see how to work on that. How can you change that mental pylon? Name calling. We're so quick to accept self loathing as valid, and we almost believe the things that we say to ourselves and treat ourselves as if it's true. I am worthless. I can't do it right. I'm a failure. I am so pessimistic. I lack discipline. I'm so complacent. So, all of these things, it's almost like you're believing about yourself. And imagine believing this. You're actually behaving in a way that you're living up to those names. Do you need to really call yourself those names and act in a way that, this is true about you? Well, maybe it's time to support yourself with some facts and see the times that you've done things right, that you've done things well. And finally, self protection. A lot of times, we don't even know that subconsciously we're trying to escape and run away from the that difficult feeling, that very uncomfortable feeling that comes with criticism. So we end up blaming others and move away from a space of growth, learning, and insight. So, how do you? I'm not saying you need to avoid feeling that or you need to get away from that feeling. It is important to feel the feeling, but at the same time, while you accept and feel the feeling, how can you not drown in that feeling, but keep yourself away from that one choice that you made? So, what do you do instead? What do you include in your self talk toolkit? Pick your perspective. Sometimes step back, make an evaluation, and see how can I see it differently. Maybe take a bird's eye view. Extend yourself or extend your perspective beyond that single event or mistake that you've made and look at the larger picture, which will lead you towards growth and learning. Action evaluation. A lot of times we are so critical of human beings that we launch an attack on our personality and don't look at the positive actions we've taken. So a lot of times it's important to keep into perspective the actions that you've taken, the choices that you've made, the options that you've chosen that have helped you, that have served you in the past. Choose your words carefully because it has an impact. If you are going to bully yourself, you're going to come out, do not expect yourself to feel confident about the next choice you make. You need to be compassionate to yourself. So imagine if you're hiring a coach for yourself to do better, to probably become a leader, to ace your career. in your career, to just perform better, to become a better version of yourself? Are you going to hire a coach who is going to be very critical of you and actually bully you? Do you think that's going to help? Or are you going to hire a coach who's encouraging, who's motivating, who's compassionate, who makes you take action because they make you believe that there is potential for change and action. So choose your words like that coach and be honest with yourself. You don't need to sugarcoat things. You don't need to be too positive if it's not the truth. You don't need to, get into false positivity. Just be honest and authentic about the choice you've made, but also understand that there is space for a next new choice that you can make, and then turn to face the world. And then understand that it may be difficult, it may be uncertain now that you've made some changes in your self talk, but then you do it one step at a time and you turn to face the world. All right. So understand a few things about shame and guilt. And these things are that shame and guilt make you feel like you're alone. So what is the antidote to it? It's empathy. You are not alone. It's and it's like I said, it's a universal emotion. You need to be kind to yourself versus judging yourself. The more you connect with others and you don't isolate yourself, the more you connect with other people, reach out to them, speak about it, even though it's difficult. Speak about the shame and the guilt you're feeling. You're able to feel more supported, understand it better, and have more control over it rather than the other way around. Now, to understand about eating habits, and especially when they stem from emotions, especially when they lead to guilt, understand that am I eating because I'm hungry or am I eating out of a particular emotion? So, how do I deal with this underlying emotion and make a plan? If I'm bored, this is what I can do. If I'm used to keeping my hands busy while I'm binge watching, does it need to always be about food that keeps my hand busy, or can I keep my hand busy in something else? Maybe knit, maybe use a fidget spinner for that matter. Understand that reminders will always help you. Maybe in the form of stickers, in the form of small post-its, will be your guiding post. If you are replacing a particular food choice, try and substitute it with something healthier. That will make it easier. Remember, it's going to be about progress and not about perfection. And make sure for every good choice that you make, you give yourself credit. Notice if there are some foods that are triggering you into eating a certain way, if you can completely remove them or at least remove them one at a time. Have a backup plan that, okay, if the next time I feel stressed, what if I turn towards the cupcakes again? What do I do? Maybe have the plan already ready so that you don't end up feeling overwhelmed that time. And understand that your constant support, the biggest weapon, your partner and your biggest coach, mentor in all of this is going to be mindfulness, which is you being aware. All right. So I'm just going to show you this table about an actual example of this. Of course, the name's being changed about this person and how a certain situation, we're calling them Brian, how a certain situation led to certain emotions. What did the emotion communicate to the person? What action did the emotion motivate the person is Brian to take, and was it helpful or not? So you can always make this for yourself. If the situation is you get an unexpected bill, you end up feeling anxious, you end up feeling shame. What is the emotion telling you? What is it making you believe? What can you do instead? What action can you take? Can you reflect and figure out how to start saving more? Or you can eat to soothe yourself. Is this action helpful to you or not? All right, over to you, Apurva.
So finally, we do have an activity, which is what would you say? Now that we have heard a lot from Dr. Saumya on self-talk, so this activity is called self-talk challenge, where we give you few questions and we see how do you respond to that. So, for example, instead of saying I have no control over my eating, try try saying I'm learning to be more mindful of my eating habits. Every meal is a chance to make a nourishing choice. So we have more questions like this. For example, I messed up again. I will never get this right. Dr. Samya, since we don't have a lot of participants, I would request you to answer these questions. So if my mind is actually saying I messed up again, I will never get this right, what should the ideal self talk be like?
Yeah. All right. So I think so you do you notice again it's your mind, that bully voice coming in again. I messed up again. I'll never get this right. Do you think you're likely to make an intentional or mindful choice after this? No, right? So how about we try saying, well, I did mess up this time, but I do have control over the next choice I make, and I can get it right the next time. So maybe it can be that. If we
Okay.
talk about right. So if we talk about another example, I ate too much. I should feel guilty. It can be something like, well, I ate without being in touch with my body signals. I ate without being very mindful. And will this guilt help me? What will help me is to reflect on the next time that I sit down to eat. I can be more in touch with my hunger signals and understand when to stop and just feel better about the choice that I made, and probably go to bed feeling proud of myself.
Hmm. Great.
Right?
So the next thing is I'm so weak when it comes to food.
I think this can be kind of tweaked, or this can be seen as you're already defining yourself. I'm so weak when it comes to food. I think it's to do with how am I feeling about myself. If I'm not feeling so great about myself, this is reflecting in the choices I'm making about my food. How can I be a little more compassionate to myself? So I am learning how to be more intentional, I'm learning, I'm being more aware about my food choices. And I haven't made such a great choice right now. But when it comes to food, I need to probably work a little more on how I speak to myself and be more in touch with what am I feeling the next time I sit down to eat, and how can I deal with it better in terms of food or not in terms of food.
Got it. I ate too much. I should feel guilty.
Yeah. So like I said that sometimes we eat too much, or we don't know, we're not very much in sync with our bodily signals, which is telling us that you're full and you can stop. So if you've eaten too much, that's all right. You do understand how it's feeling. Will this guilt help you? If you feel like you should feel guilty, you think this guilt is going to help you? It's going to serve you in the next choice that you make? Or can you be more reflective instead of being guilty and understand that the next time I sit down to eat, how can I be more in touch with the bodily signals which tell me I'm hungry, or
Mhm.
I'm eating out of a particular emotion, or I'm full and I can stop?
I have to burn off these extra calories now.
Okay, so where is this coming from? I think it is coming from a conditioning that, I've probably eaten I'm probably following a particular plan, or I'm probably following a particular pattern, and I've crossed the calorie count that I have for myself. So I have to burn off these extra calories. So I think it sounds like you're trying to make a choice to work on the calories that you consumed. So how can you make that choice without beating yourself up?
Mm-hmm.
That can be one thing. And what can you do in the next meal instead? How can you be more mindful about the calories? And one bad meal or one unhealthy meal doesn't define you, or
Yeah.
doesn't, show who you are entirely.
I have failed my diet today.
I have failed my diet today. Well, we're all human, and I'm not feeling so great about it. I have made a choice that I'm not too proud of. But this failure doesn't need to mean that I can't make a U-turn. If I'm driving and I missed a turn, I can always go ahead and make a U-turn and come back and see how probably the next thing that I eat can be, can be more aligned with my diet, or more aligned with the pattern that I'm following right now. Thank you so much, Purva, and thank you. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was resourceful. And yes, always remember, the way you speak to yourself is really going to determine how you feel, and which will determine the choice. So, you have more control than you think. And yes, let's reflect on that. And thank you, everyone. And thank you, Abulva.